Thanks.
I saw it. I was there. I saw it all. He reached up with his dead hand and signed it in his own blood. And he did it with this pen. Time to pay the check. The pen is truly mightier than the sword.
You know, we have a lot of expressions in the English language.
I don't even know what I'm saying.
What are we talking about?
Where'd that come from?
Most all of us use them every day.
I don't even know what that means.
No one knows what it means.
You know, we just say them as if they really made sense.
I mean, how silly is that?
Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
What the is he talking about?
You know who it is, you know what it is. Welcome to Appraise the Phrase, origins of everyday expressions, where we're here to do three things. Unveil, you know what it is. It's unveil the origin, confirm the meaning, and assess the value of common everyday phrases. It's me, Mario, and I'm here, as usual, with my guy. I'm feeling good. I'm here with my guy, 20 Williams. 20, what's up, man? How you feel?
Yeah, like, what's going on, man? How's everybody doing out there, man?
We're good.
I'm good.
Hey.
You know, we always good. You know what I'm saying? It's good to be back. Good to be on another show, man. The show is amazing. I love it.
I appreciate you, brother. There is no show without you. I have to say that as often as I can.
No, my brother. There's no show without you.
You know, it's bi-directional. Now, today, the reason why I always feel good on these shows, man, and it's because we're always dined with the presence. We're always dined with, you know, there's another saying, never be the smartest person in the room or you're in the wrong room, which would leave nobody in any room. But in this case, we're making it happen. So I am happy, overjoyed to bring on a mentor of mine, good friend, well-accomplished poet, life coach, professional coach, all around amazing human being. My man, my guy, Juan Mobili. Juan, how are you today, my friend?
Thank you, Mario. I'm doing very well. Better now that I'm with you and 20.
Oh, man.
Oh, my man. Juan, what's going on, big dog? How we doing?
I'm doing fine. And you know what, thinking, because I don't like you to fight about who this show could not be without. Let's just say it could not be the show without me, and we just settle on that.
And we're going to, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Let's do that. Let's do that. I like Juan already.
He's a peacemaker, and he's willing. He's willing to.
I was about to walk off unless he conceded. But since you're here, Juan, I appreciate you bringing the piece back on to.
Yeah, it was volatile. It was volatile. Now, really
That's
quickly,
good.
Juan, briefly, I'll give you an opportunity to really, you know, allow a final word of where you sit, where you platform things. But for now, can you just give us a brief introduction to who you are?
Sure. Well, you know, I'll say the things that, you know, mean the most to me. If you
There we go.
Right?
That's what we want to know.
Some of them. So, without an absolute order of importance, otherwise I'm going to get in trouble with somebody or somebody else. Right? You know, I was saying to Mario the other day, 20, that not only we come from a certain place, but we come from a certain time and certain people. Right?
Oh, I believe that. I believe that.
And certainly, that's not only true for my poetry, but just how I see the world, right? So, I'm originally from Buenos Aires, Argentina, and I was a young, spirited, a young man, spirited and willing to make a difference during the years that were probably the saddest politically for my country, where after a period of 7 years of dictatorship, close to 30,000 people disappeared. In other words, were taken and never recognized, and many of them actually were killed, including robbing the children of women that were pregnant when they were kidnapped, right?
And this was in Argentina?
That was in Argentina, throughout the country, not just Buenos Aires, which is where I'm from. And I'm saying that because, you know, if you were in Argentina at that time, and if you had any intention to make things better, that's something that, you know, the scar doesn't go away, right? You just learn to live with it. You know?
Mm-hmm.
I remember at some point I was listening to an interview to Maya Angelou, right? And she was talking about her childhood. Different story, but similar pain in terms of what she went through. And she said that for her to write, she had to sharpen her pencil on those old scars.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So, anyways, sorry for it. I like tangents, so I probably already went into one. But so, from Argentina, lived in New York, which is my other great city, for twice as long as I live in Argentina. I'm a father of 3 young men, adults. One of them made me a grandfather twice. I'm a poet, which precedes even being married. And also outside of writing, and that's how I met Mario. I work in the area of, you could say, leadership development. How can you be not just more impactful, but how can you be more giving and present and generous with the people that entrusted you with your direction, in companies around the world. So,
oh, that's awesome, man. That's
so
awesome.
So we're in good company, man.
I can live in that way.
Yeah, we're in good company. We're
That's
in good company. And Juan's work, he says way more things that I've been blessed to read from him, even though his writing is amazing. And that's why today's phrase, we are not joking around with making sure we are able to peel back the layers of the phrases that we are appraising. So without further ado, let's get into it. Today's phrase is, the pen is mightier than the sword. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. So before we get into Webster's definition of that, 20, where do you connect with the pen is mightier than the sword?
I connected with hierarchy. You know what I mean? I connected with hierarchy in the sense of, the ones that are, I want to say, making the rules, but that are controlling the ones that are controlling society aren't always the ones that are fighting for society. If I can kind of like not really elaborate on that, because I feel like that was
very
to
smooth,
just leave it alone.
Friend.
But
that was very smooth.
Just the ones that, like, you can make a rule that would last longer than a fight ever will.
Man.
You get what I'm saying? So it's like one of those situations where, when you say the pen is mightier than a sword, I see a businessman talking to a soldier when I hear that.
Beautiful imagery. Beautiful imagery, 20. Juan, what is your connection to the pen is mightier than the sword?
Well, let me start commenting on what 20 said, and to play on what you imagine, right, or you see. I would say that when a pen writes, so to speak, leaves a more lasting mark than, the stroke of a sword. That's for sure. You and I know through different experiences some of those marks of the pen. Right? All the laws, I'm thinking of the Jim Crow laws. You know what I mean? I'm thinking of what replaced the Constitution in my country when it was banned, etc., etc. Right? So I was thinking of that. The other thing is, I don't know what this came from. It's almost like if we wanted to update that saying for the millennial crowd, we could say that the tweet is mightier than the drone.
Yeah, the tweet is mightier than the drone. That iteration, I won't take credit, but the 30-year Wikipedia, when that phrase overtakes this phrase in popularity, I want that Wikipedia to cite Appraise the Phrase episode with Juan to say that it was first touted on this show. The tweet is mightier than the drone. That is where we are today. I appreciate that.
You know what we may want to do is we may want to stop and go to GoDaddy and register it right now.
Right now.
Yeah.
Right now.
You got to do your due diligence.
You got it. Yeah,
You got to do your due diligence nowadays, man.
you got to.
So that was one thought, right? That a couple of thoughts, and they're all, and this may connect to what I write. When I write about something, it's almost, I see something like you said, Tony, and then see where that goes. You know what I mean? Rather than I know exactly what the message is. Sometimes the message finds me.
Of course.
Well, I find something I didn't know I was writing about, right?
Yeah.
So when I think of the pen mightier than the sword, the metaphor, or literally, one of the things I think about is, and this is around the world, right? If you have proof of the power of the pen, see how many people actually gave their lives for what they wrote.
Yes.
Right?
For that pen. How many people gave their lives for that pen, you know?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, some of you can say, there's a saying, dying by the sword, but he's dying by the pen too.
Yeah. There is dying. Man.
Oh yeah.
Man.
Nowadays, a lot of our, I'm not going to speak on it because it's not a political show.
It can be.
But
Everything.
nowadays, that's how a lot of our young soldiers out here are dying over something that
In an
happened
office
with them.
building.
Absolutely.
In an office space.
Back to what you were saying, right? What you just signed is going to cause this number of casualties.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Soldiers and civilian, right?
Yes.
We're
Yes.
seeing
Soldier
that now
and
in the
civilian.
Ukraine. Again, I don't want to get political, but who could ignore, right?
Yeah. No, we're talking
exactly.
reality. I don't know. Politics should have some reality to it. We're talking reality here. Let's get into the dictionary definition of the pen is mightier than the sword. Webster's defines the pen is mightier than the sword as writing is more effective than military power or violence. Okay, so we hinted at it there. It's more effective. Let's I want to lead. Usually I don't ask leading questions, but this time I kind of want to. Where are you at, Juan, with it being the writing is more effective? That word is sticking out to me in Webster's, our current time definition. Writing is more effective than military power. Talk to me.
It's funny because if I answer currently, I would say absolutely. I mean, the power of social media, right? So we extrapolate pen to communicate, to sending out your message. How quickly the impact of what you said will be felt, right?
Yes.
It's just like exponential compared to, let's say, when you literally was months before you saw your words in print or people may have a reaction to it, right? It's immediate. You can't take it back, as we know. The other thing is, I find, and this is part of being effective, which doesn't mean being positively effective.
Yes.
Is, and this is an opinion. I'm not saying that I have the research behind.
Yeah.
It seems that with social media, the obligation to be responsible for the accuracy of what you say is much lower.
Yes.
Setting Argentina,
you can ask Chris.
Basically, you can say any shit you want.
You can say any damn thing you want, and for a minute, I don't know the exact time, and I'm sure that there's a stat out there. For a certain amount of time, it is the truth. For a certain amount of time, if you tweet it out or have said it in this vacuum, and it's only in a vacuum without any context, it will be received as the truth for even a nanosecond.
It seemed like the truth is not upon facts of how many people have seen.
Exactly.
So if it's something that has been seen by the masses, then it's deemed the truth.
Yeah.
Not the fact of the matter that, this is something that, we fact checked. We've made sure we did the research. Nah, man, this is something that has been retweeted or re-seen by millions. So it has to be the truth.
I have a dear friend who retired now, but was a chief editor of a very big newspaper, right? And he says, in my time, so to speak, if you could not fact check it, it came off the article.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nowadays,
if
it's going to generate some reaction,
let's run it. Let's run it.
And we have even a presidential example of it's not about telling the truth, it's about what people are going to talk about.
What are they going to respond to?
It's rather you'd rather be first than right.
Or truthful or even reality based. Okay, that leads me. I'm glad you said that. Effective, the spectrum of effective, in what way, volume of time. let's get into the first layer of the origin. All right. Origin round one. Okay, so the Assyrian sage, Ahikar, back in 7th century BCE. Just for those listeners, I'm assuming viewers, I won't assume, but I will imply that you know that the smaller the number in BCE is the closer in time to now. Okay, just to understand. So 7th century BCE coined the first known version of this phrase: "The pen is mightier than the sword," as we know it. One of his teachings of Hikar, dating back to 500 BCE, states the word is mightier than the sword. So almost verbatim in 500 BCE. Okay, so that's where in this teachings, that's a copy of that is written and founded somewhere. And then let's move to the Greeks. In 406 BCE, so remember, the smaller the number, the closer today, a playwright, Euripides, wrote, he was supposed to have written, "The tongue is mightier than the blade." Okay, which would make, it's the same old. We're getting there. Communication, as Juan said, when we talk about the essence. Let's move to a different culture. Okay. Abdul Fazi ibn Morabak, who died in 1602. So now we're AD, guys. We're way past before, so we've a long time since the Greek playwright Euripides, who died and said this supposedly. This guy, Morabak, was a personal scribe to the vizier Akbar the Great, who's very well, Akbar the Great researched him very well, very powerful. He wrote, a gentleman put in charge of fiefdom, having been promoted from the pen to the sword and taken his place among those who join the sword to the pen and are masters of both peace and war. So I'll repeat that. He wrote, a gentleman put in charge of fiefdom, having been promoted from pen to the sword, and notice the word promotion, from pen to sword, and taken his place among those who join the sword to the pen and are masters of both peace and war. I'm taking that as, there's decision makers, there's communication makers, there's people that frame the narrative, and then you're brought into who enforces the narrative. And those two in collection are masters of peace and war. And then lastly, when we talk about the essence and where this comes from, the French Emperor Napoleon Bonaparte. Now we all know Napoleon based on how we're taught history. He was known to have said a lot of things during his military conquest, his great success, if you want to deem it that. Okay, he said 4 hostile newspapers are to be more feared than 1,000 bayonets. So 4 publications in newspaper, 1,000 guns, the old guns like you saw on Looney Tunes. And then he also said there are only 2 powers in the world: the saber, the sword, and the mind. And at the end, the saber is always defeated by the mind. Now, these all stand in isolation in very different times. These are not what popularized the phrase, but they are introductions. All right, coming back to my gracious folks on the panel with me. Where do we sit? How do we feel now that this has been introduced in different parts of the world at different times? 20, I'll start with you. Does one stand out for you?
No, it's not. You know what? Honestly, what really stands out for me is basically the transition from just brute violence to mental warfare. You get what I'm saying? In the beginning of time, if you wanted something, you grab a stick and you go get it. You know what I'm saying? If you had a problem with a village, listen, we're going to meet up. If you want to send your best man, I'll send my best man. If not, we all can fight. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And in the evolution of war, that's what it really is becoming, because it's not just the fittest, the toughest, you know what I mean? The best soldier is going to win you the war anymore. It's not that. It's the people behind the king's ear. It's the people that are in the church. It's the people that are not, I don't want to say fit for battle, but the war has been changed. You gotta, throughout the times, you can see the evolution of war, the evolution of violence, as opposed to just being brute physical to mental. Because you can get somebody to do what you want way easier mentally.
Yeah, then you just beat them into submission, and then subordination, and then
because if you beat them or you kill them, then you have to do it. Why not get someone to do it
there's
for you?
Hostages. Literally, a hostage.
That's something that the Persians did, bro.
The Persians. Shout out to Xerxes. Juan, where
you
you
talked about this vaguely, but that's something that the Persians did.
Yeah, Juan, talk to me.
You know what I mean? Instead of killing off everybody, let's become the greatest conglomerate, the greatest body of war by mentally, conquering these countries before physically conquering.
And it takes a little bit.
So when it comes to pen, it's not just for me. For me, it's not just writing down, hey, this is what's going on. I think the pen is more or less mental, more or less on a mind aspect than it is actual, let me write down, hey, stop fighting.
Yeah.
Gotcha. If I'm not going beyond the tracks,
no, we'll get there. You know me. Well, I've seen. We'll get there. Let's get Juan. Where you at? Where you at with the first
I was
layer?
going to say also interesting because you can say you were talking about war and violence, etc. Right? Mm-hmm. It's not that the violence ends with the pen. It's just a different dimension because this is something I read a number of times ago, a number of years ago. What people say is the earliest form proof of written text is 5,500 years ago in Sumerian, and by and large, and this could be argued, the text, the earliest written text were records of transactions of slaves. It was about buying and selling slaves. It was not literature. Whether writing has made peace with
that sounds like some misinformation for you. That's good, Juan. I like that one. Juan, actually, do me a favor. I'm sorry to cut you off, but you can say that again one more time for the audience, man, because that right there hit my soul.
You can look it up. I'm sure there is also detractors, but both researchers, anthropologists, says that the earliest found let's say, proof of writing, of the written text, were records of the slave transactions, of the buying and selling of slaves. Kind of like, you can say, like a controller's record.
Yeah, really, literally, this is our line items for this transaction. These are the line items for how we're doing business. And it comes down to, in slave trade, let's even contextualize a little bit more, and I don't want to speak for you, Juan, so tell me if I'm off, is power. It's a power dynamic. Slave is economics, and economics creates a stability. Stability create. Even we keep working up that hierarchy of power.
Yeah, and I don't want to be too mystical, but look, we gotta recognize that the origin or the first use of it was not poetry.
It wasn't poetry. It's not.
No, it wasn't.
You know what I mean?
No, it wasn't. There was another poetic about it, Juan.
Exactly. So I hope we make peace with the birth of writing. If not the birth, you know what I mean? What seems to have been one of the most important things to write first of.
Exactly. Exactly. Level of importance.
Right. But you're right. You hit it on the head, Mario, about power. Because regardless of what you say, if it ain't in that book transaction, it ain't happening. You get what I'm saying? Like that writing it down became it more of a truth than actually physically doing something. You get what I mean? Like that became more of true. That became more of the way than actually saying, "Hey, we're going to enslave these people." But they're not going to be enslaved. They're just captives until we write it down and we're being able to log it down.
And listen, and that connects.
I don't think it's I don't think it's a coincidence that you can say even today, but that for so long, being able to read and write was a privilege, not a gift.
Hey, that is.
Right?
I think that's directly correlated. Yeah, and it makes me think of. It makes me.
Because you learn how to fight it early.
It makes me think of. It makes me think of another phrase that now, and I'll start as we continue to do this again. Season 2, we're in here. Is the relation of some of these. So the victor writes the story or something along those lines. Here we are with a cousin to this phrase. Let's jump into the second layer of the origin where it popularized, because we live in a society where we all live in America. We live in a society where there's a certain hierarchy of who said it to make it important or popular, right? So this phrase was coined and popularized by the English author Edward Bulwer-Lytton in 1839. So our last, essence when we talked about was in the 1600s from Napoleon, or 1700s from Napoleon, and now we're up to the 1800s, 1839. It was in a play of his called Richelieu, or in The Conspiracy. So let's talk about Edward Bulwer-Lytton first before we get into that play. So we'd like to know why it matters that this guy said it and what would influence someone to put this in their work, right? So he was a first Baron Lytton. He was a writer and politician, first of all. He served as a Whig member in the Parliament from 1831 to 1841. So again, politically, not just in politics, but a politician. He was a conservative. He was the Secretary of the State for the colonies, and he chose Richard Clement Moody as the founder of British Columbia, BC, over in Canada. Look up Richard Clement Moody. I don't know on the spectrum where he's at. And then he also declined to be the crown of Greece in 1862 after King Otto abdicated that, and he was also created the Baron Lytton of Nebworth in 1866. So well-connected politically as much as his writing, well-connected guy. But his writing and his selling his writing paid him well. So that's where he got a lot. That's where he made his money. The reason why that's important to note for me is because when he married a woman named Rosalina Doyle Wheeler, who's an Irish beauty at the time. So again, important things. He's not around just anything. He's around the prestigious stuff. He married her against the wishes of his mom, and she withdrew his allowance, which it tells me he's from somewhat of not impoverished, of people. Yeah, he's of privilege. And it forced him to work for a living. So that made writing, I got a right to eat. I have the right to live. And he has a certain standard of living. So that just makes me, if a person is going to write, the pen is mightier than the sword and the communication is bigger than physical violence or physical warfare. You got someone who lives a quality life, and had writing, communication be a means to their ends as far as just economically. And his writing and political work actually strained his marriage with her, and they divorced. So that's how mighty the pen is in Edward Bulwer-Lytton's life. All right, Juan, talk to me a little bit about Edward Bulwer-Lytton. Where does that put you with the phrase in his contribution?
Well, it's interesting because you can say several things, right? Because after all, he was among the privileged. He was not like he rose from the bottom thanks to the pen, right?
Right.
So the first thing that comes to me is the pen. They said the saying, "You were born with a silver spoon in your mouth."
Yep.
Well, some people are born with a pen available.
Like that.
One more time, Juan.
Right.
One more time.
Nice
And loud.
Dropping some gems, man.
Yes.
Yeah. Some of us are born.
People are born with a pen.
A pen in the crib. You know what I mean? And I'm saying it maybe now is, and that's the amazing thing about social media or the internet is to the degree to which it democratizes the possibility to express your thoughts and have other people know what they are. It also, I think, lower the bar when you look at everything that gets said in the future,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
In other words, it's a lot to weigh through, but there is something to, like for instance, just talking about poetry alone, for instance, people that submit poems to journals and journals themselves has grown exponentially in the virtual world.
Right.
It's cheaper. You don't need to print it. All you have to do is write something and send. I'm not talking about the published stuff. So, the great news is more people are expressing their feelings.
Mm-hmm.
The tough part is a lot of crap out there, too.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. That's real.
So anyway, back to the guy, right? So I was thinking, interesting how he understood the power.
Yes.
How
Yes.
he turned it into. The other thing I was thinking, and this is back to something Tony said before when he was talking about war and the sword. One thing that the sword and the pen have in common, and I'm talking about a specific sword, a specific pen, let's say a fountain pen, is you have to wield them. In other words, if I was going to kill my enemy, I was as far as the length of a sword.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you can almost talk, not exclusively, but one way to talk about the evolution of war is as increasing the distance between you and your target.
Yes.
Yeah, it's hard.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. And what has limited range? A pin.
Exactly. And I think when you are, I never wield a sword or a knife necessarily, certainly not to skewer anyone. I would say, but whereas the pen of the sword, you could say that you could not be aware of what you are about to do. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so whatever all that means. Right?
Yeah. Exactly.
And now, if you go to the other extreme, and I'm saying because it could be effective as a weapon. I was reading about in the Ukraine right now, one of the most effective words to fend off the Russians is the small tech group that is handling drones.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? That's how they get in Kiev, for instance, right?
Yeah.
So great. In that context, I go, well, I'm glad they protected the city, blah blah blah. But it's interesting because how aware you are of the damage you're gonna cause when you are in front of a screen versus you're holding a sword. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. It desensitizes the power that you wield. It makes you look more reckless, I would say.
Yeah, it disassociates you from what you have to do with what you're about to do. Right? And I know this is not talking about our friend Edward, but
no. He's just a jumping off point. He's actually inconsequential because, and I'm actually going to just jump to the third part of the origin, because in the play, Richelieu, the conspiracy, it was about someone else named Cardinal Richelieu, and he, Edward says that he had license with dates and details that he indulged when writing this. And so the line where the pen is mightier than the sword comes into play in that play is, true this, beneath the rule of men entirely great, the pen is mightier than the sword. Behold, the arch enchanter's wand itself a nothing, but taking sorcery from the master hand to paralyze the Caesars and to strike the loud earth breathless, take away the sword, states can be saved without it. I take from that look, we can war all we want to. There's masters of war in this physical realm, but we can save the state. We can provide sorcery to guys like Caesar, war champions like Caesar without the sword, lay it down. Now it's important to say, why is this in this play about this guy, right? So who is Richelieu? He was a powerful political figure. So politics, you cannot separate politics from this phrase. I'm just going out there to say it. It's hard to. You'd be hard pressed, I'll say. You'd be hard pressed to separate politics. Richelieu was a powerful political figure who sought to consolidate royal power, and by restraining the power of the nobility, he transformed France into a strong centralized state. In foreign policy, his primary objective was to check the power of the Habsburg dynasty in Spain and Austria, a very strong dynasty, and ensure French dominance in the 30 Years' War that engulfed Europe. And we know about the 30 Years' War. If you want to know more about the 30 Years' War, go research it. But it's pivotal. It's pivotal in European history. Now, Richelieu to just add more context. Like, that's what he was about. That's what he did. Good for France, right? Good for France. Learn some stuff. Richelieu has frequently been depicted in popular fiction, principally as a lead villain in Dumas's 1844 novel, The Three Musketeers, and in numerous film adaptations. He's a bad guy. He's a bad guy in fiction, and we know, and we can kind of imply what fictional cinema does. It gives license to tell another side of the truth, another perspective. So he's a villain in Three Musketeers, which we all root for the Three Musketeers. You know what I mean? So if this play about this French guy whose main idea was to empower France to eternal dominance, is what the eyesight is, eternal dominance, and he's depicted as a villain. So think about that. That play opened in London's Covent Garden Theatre in 1839, and Queen Victoria was there. And it was a success, and it went crazy. It was just big because Queen Victoria was there witnessing this play about this Frenchman, right? So now it's big off that. Like, that's why this is last, the popularization. And then Edward Sherman Gould, who's a writer, a famous writer at the time, said of Bulwer, he had the good fortune to do what few men can hope to do. He wrote a line that is likely to live for the ages. Now, we know that this essence was prior to him, but he positioned it in a place where those in privilege, those in power, those who have access to that pen Juan was talking about were present. And now this phrase lives through the ages. And so it quickly gained currency. And by the 1840s, it was commonplace. So it became a thing after a play about a French villain was seen by Queen Victoria. She loved it. That one line stood out, and here we are today. 20. Where does that put you? Oh, go ahead, Juan. Go ahead.
No, one more piece is Richelieu was a cardinal. So now we talk about politics. We can bring religion too.
And we can bring, thank you for not letting us miss that, because they try to separate church and state.
Because I would say, because the least you could say, right, without going into for or against, is just like not everybody got the pen. Different texts have different power, right? Because when you call something sacred, call it the Ten Commandments, the Torah, certainly the Quran, right?
Yep.
Justifiably or so, it produces a different reader than, let's say, a pamphlet about the daily of the court.
Exactly.
No, but you know what? Honestly, to go back to what you were saying, Mario, I feel like one, like if you're a fan of the Three Musketeers, majority of the premise of the Musketeers it's always them being in this representation, the sword, and it's always somebody in the cardinal's ear, or it's always somebody in someone, it's always somebody's in the king's ear. Usually be the cardinal, usually be the church, or usually be this, that is feeding false information or is feeding their own agenda into the ear of the king. And that's where the eternal battle comes in when it comes to the Three Musketeers. You know what I'm saying? So I'm assuming this play, this play had to deal with something in that realm of, hey, this is why the pen can be mightier than the sword, because if I have your ear, I can really dictate my agenda. And I'm pretty sure that the queen felt that personally. You get what I'm saying? And the second contents of that is that, of course, if you want something to last, what are you going to put? What are you going to do? You're going to get the people that is in control of things that are lasting. You're going to get people that are in control of the gatekeepers of history and the gatekeepers of the future in one room to say, hey, man, this play right here, but not just this play, this line, because it resonated with me personally. Oh my gosh. Yep. And so it's like, in its own sense, the layers of the pen being mightier than the sword, because he got his legacy to live way longer than, an Achilles, or way longer than a Goliath,
Right.
or way longer than someone who's got their legacy off of
The war
off
heroes.
off of pure strength.
The
When
war
now,
heroes.
hey, I have my legacy. I didn't have to pick up a sword, and my name rings a lot harder than most of these guys who died for their country. So,
Man,
it's in that sense,
you know what?
man. Like it's really dope. Like I said, man, you gotta always have the contents of what they said and how they said. The contents and the time and where they were and what mindset they're in when you say these idioms, and because it really shows you what the meaning is or what the purpose of it.
Yeah, when you're saying it, what the purpose of it?
What drove it
to
say, hey,
coming to
the
life?
pen is mightier than the sword, because there's a guy that had to go off its own merit. You get what I'm saying? Not physically, but mentally had to go off his own merit, build his way up to put himself in this situation, and he did it all by the pen. And it's like, when you're sitting up here and you look back and you're like, okay, how did I accomplish what I accomplished? I wrote my way to the top. You know what I'm saying? Some of these people that are
maintained
mainly,
his
the people that are mainly,
he maintained his
Mario,
spot
you
at the
know what
top.
it is. The people that are mainly by people in power are mostly military. Whenever you see these movies and you go into the war room with the president, everybody around them is somewhat military based. That's just what they want to show you, and what they want you to believe, that this is how you become an hierarchy. But now, you know what I'm saying? The people that are smart enough to know that I don't have to pick up a gun. I don't even know how to shoot. I don't even have to know how to shoot a gun to be in that room. You get what I'm saying? So it's like, it's always been somebody in that room that has never slung a sword, but that would say something and have the general or the lieutenant or whatever the case may be quiet. And usually it's always those ones that are going against each other. It usually, you know what I'm saying? And that's just in the media and everything that I've seen. It's usually always the main lieutenant, the main captain, and the main right-hand man that's in the king's ear, going head to head, battling, and seeing who can get their own agenda, or who can get their agenda across to the king or to the emperor first.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's also the hopeful part, right? That, for instance, now that the pen, or I would say that if you have something important to say and you know how to say it, it might have a bigger impact than brute force.
Yes.
Right? That's something I had to learn at an older age. One is like how to get what I want. I'm reading a book called The Art of Inception versus Inception. It's like how can you get what you want by having people feel like it was their idea?
Yeah. And I like to think, and to add to this, in addition to those things, I like to say that now we're in a space, I mean, it's always been that way in a sense, but now we're in a space we're really seeing where the communication can be so powerful, actually, so mighty, that it draws out physical violence. I can't retaliate with the same level of power in my words. So I got to fucking punch you. I got to hit you. I have to hit you because I can't meet that. It's evoked such an emotion, such a strain on my reality that I have to respond with physical force because I am either not in position, you are in an oppressive state, or I have lost so poorly in this battle of words and communication that I am going to the physical realm.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, bottom line, if beyond the pen, language is power.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I said more than once that I'm thinking of some people that should remain nameless, but I think some people should get a license to speak.
Yes.
Because they could be just as dangerous as people that get a license to carry a weapon.
Absolutely. Listen, let's actually let our pen be super mighty. Let's add some words to let's add some written word to all this stuff that we're saying, what we think, so it can be echoed in the chambers of eternity via my spreadsheet.
Mario, before you do that,
let's appraise
this
phrase.
I want to say this
yes,
to
sir.
the audience. If you're looking for
yes.
an amazing example where the pen is mightier than the sword, go read or find a movie based on Othello. The story of Othello is an amazing depiction of how the pen can be mightier than the sword. Go ahead. I don't want to digress into that, but because it's an amazing story, manipulated by one of his great Othello, and how he was friends. Othello, of course, was one of the I would say one of those ones that came from nothing through hardship, got his respect through hardship and fighting and everything like that. And it was a person who betrayed him by just really mental manipulation. And it's just a really great writing. It's a really great story. I believe that that's a really great example of how the pen can be mightier than the sword. Not just writing laws down, but really mental, like we talked about in the beginning of this, more of on a mental aspect. So thank you, Mario, for letting me say.
Got you. Beautiful. Oh, for sure. Let's grade it then. Let's grade it. With all those things combined, let's grade it. We got a 3-part grading scale, a 3-part grading rubric, A through F scale. We got the power grade, the impact. When it's said, does it hit the recipient? Does it impact the sayer? Does it impact the environment when it's spoken? Then we got our speed grade, the eloquence. Is it just a flow off the tongue? Is it nice to say? Does it satiate you when you say it or hear it? And then we've got our guest preference. Juan is going to give us an overall total summation of the speed, the power, the history, his personal feelings, how often he wants to continue to use it or use it in the past, and give us a grade. Again, A through F scale. 20, we'll start with you on the power grade. Give me the grade for power.
Honestly, man, I give it a man, because once you really start understanding A minus, I give it an A minus, what they mean, and not going literal as, oh yeah, I'm gonna fight you when you have a sword with a pen. You get what I'm saying? Like, of course, that's not what they mean. But when you start to dig deeper into it, I feel like it's showing you that you don't always have to be a warrior. You don't always have to be. You know what I'm saying? You don't always have to fight. You don't always have to be on the offense or the defense. You get what I'm saying? I think once you start giving it those layers, it becomes more powerful, because you can also say it in the sense of someone who was once a warrior and cannot be in that same mentality, or don't have that same ability anymore. That, hey, there's something after the fight.
Yeah.
You know what
Their
I mean?
experience
and I
now
feel like
becomes
when majority of the time people are saying it, it's a sense of saying, hey, look, you don't always have to fight, because sometimes that doesn't get you everything that you need. Sometimes you got to be a little bit smarter. Sometimes you got to have those words to say to get what you want. So I think I definitely give it a more of an A minus. If I said that right
A minus
the first time, I give it more of an A minus. I'm gonna stamp that, because I feel like, yes, it does have its own sense of power, but once you start to layer it, once you start to dig deeper, then it becomes even more powerful. So that's why I didn't give it an A plus, because it's not as powerful as it is once you start digging deep. It's still powerful, but it's once you start deep and deep, I feel like if it was an A plus, you wouldn't have to dig deep to get that.
I agree. I'm with you. A minus.
A minus.
All right, I'm going to jump into the speed. Appreciate you, 20. The pen is mightier than the sword. Way too many syllables, to be quite honest. The pen is mightier than the sword. I think it does, though, possess the right amount of flow to circumvent all that syllable work, all that mouth work I have to do this to say it. It actually are the right set of words to get it out. So the pen is mightier than the sword. I think that ear too is getting me, but it's still, I would say, edible. It's an edible phrase. So I'll give that, because of that, I'll give it a B minus because, you know, a child wouldn't say it. So they're not going to keep it alive. A child wouldn't say it. And there are phrases that a young person without any other context can say and keep alive. So B minus. There we go. Now, Juan, pull it all together for us. Yeah. Those two things included, plus your personal experience, your personal feelings, the history. What do you grade it?
What's your overall grade for it?
All right. Yeah. I would say we're not just grading its value, but also its impact.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The power.
Yeah.
So I would, I'm with you. I would say probably in the, I would give it a B plus or A, and I tell you why. I think over time, the more a phrase has been around, the more it proves that it's outlasted anything else, right? We're talking here about something that was first said 500 years before BCE, right? So that's pretty heavy, right? I think, as a poet, I am almost obsessed about prune every word that is not absolutely essential. And I think that you couldn't say what that means without that number of words. So from that point of view, I think that could it be shorter? Yeah, but could it say the same? I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think it would have the same meaning if it wasn't what it was.
If it was just the pen is mighty or something. Yeah. All right, so Juan, I got to challenge you though. Go.
Yeah.
No,
and I was going to say, now I was, and that grade does not neglect that the source of it still has a lot of right.
Still, the source still. So B plus or A minus? We got to hard line it. You got.
I gotta commit.
You got to commit. It won't get stamped without a commitment.
B plus.
B plus. Stamp it. Beautiful.
Do I have to sign? Do I have to put my signature?
We just stamped it. I would love your signature, but you know what? First, Juan, you graced Appraise the Phrase. Thank you. Take a minute to just give the people, the listeners, the viewers, one more look into your mind, where we can find your work and how we can best support.
Thank you. Well, like I said at the beginning, one of the things that I feel defined by is writing, right? The pen, particularly poetry. And literally by April 15th, my first chapbook of poems will be available.
Woo!
Okay. And so by the 15th, it should be available in places like Amazon and Barnes & Noble online, which I'm happy because it could get out of the United States, not be limited to here. It could be ordered now. I don't know. If you want, you can always put a link. So I'm very happy
it will be
about
in the show
that,
notes. Yep.
Right?
Yeah, you'll be able to access that in the show notes, y'all.
And now that I talk about the sword, I think there are swords and pens in my poems, right? But the title of the poem is Contraband.
Ooh, Contraband.
And I call it Contraband. The first poem is called Contraband, so it would explain why I call it that. But the idea would be that when everything could be outlawed, you need to be very clear about what you said aloud. Or like I said, or you may want to master contraband.
Yes, sir. I love it. Juan, thank you. Please go support April 15th. This will probably be out after that, but go get it in the show notes. You'll be able to click. Before we let you go, Juan, I have one more thing to ask of you. Actually, 20 has one more thing to ask of you.
Okay.
All right, Juan, this is one of my favorite segments of the show, man. If you are an seeker of knowledge, and this is only for the seeker of knowledges. All right. we came across, me and Mario came across this book called The Dictionary of Misinformation. And what we like to do is just inform people that have been misinformed. All right. And what we do is we ask our guests at the end of every show. So the reason why we do it at the end of every show, I feel like we have to explain. It's because we don't like arguing with people. You know how sometimes when people believe something, Juan, and you try to tell them what's right about what they believe, and they still want to argue with it because they feel it inside their heart that this is what they've learned, so it is the truth. When honestly, they just been misinformed. So this is what we like to have this segment do.
At the end.
It's just inform the misinformed with hit me with that.
Oh, we're going to
plug.
use
The Dictionary of Misinformation.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
One more time for the people in the back, Mario.
The Dictionary of Misinformation.
Let's get it.
The Dictionary of Misinformation. And what we do, Juan, we ask our guests for one letter. One letter. That's all we ask. It could be your favorite letter in the alphabet, A through Z. Just give us one letter, and what we do is, with that letter, we use that to find which misinformation we're about to correct.
Yes.
So, Juan, we're asking you right now, just give us one letter, A through Z.
Okay. I'm going to go with M.
M, the big M.
Mario, he's going with M for Mario.
There we go. Oh, okay. I like this one. Macaroni. Let's go with macaroni. What
Macaroni?
What
macaroni?
There's some misinformation. There's some misinformation out here about macaroni. Let's see if it's been cleared up by now. Hey,
is it?
You ready? Okay, so America.
I have a misinformation. Before you do that, Mario, wait. Before you do that, I have a misinformation about macaroni. Macaroni is not to be served wet.
Okay, I'm fair with that. I'm fair with that. Macaroni. Okay, listen here. Macaroni in America is a type of pasta, right? That we know it, you know, and it's going hard. Macaroni, it's a staple in American dishes, especially soul food, black households. However, though, in Italy, a macaroni, plural macaroni, is a generic term for like 8 kinds of pasta. Macaroni isn't just one pasta. It's a variation of 8 pastas, vermicelli, spaghetti, and a half dozen others. Macaroon comes from the same source. We are being lazy. Macaroni doesn't actually exist in the way we know it. It's a bunch of, when you say I'm having macaroni, you could be having 12 different pastas. Folks, get with the times. Learn what pasta you're eating. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
It's not just elbow, y'all.
It's not just elbow, guys. Come on.
It's not just elbow,
appreciate
y'all.
your time, Juan. You can find us.
Juan's like, wait, what? What's going on?
Yeah, you can.
That information is going to change my life. Maybe my next chapter will be called macaroni.
Yeah, I'm telling you, please put it to paper, Juan, so it can spread. Not just
so, Juan, if you come across any women that say they know how to make a mean macaroni and cheese,
say which
you gotta
one?
go ahead and try.
Which one? All righty.
Which one?
We appreciate y'all. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. We're brought to you by the Underdog Podcast Network. Please like, subscribe, leave a comment, be a part of the community. You can find us at www.appraisethephrase.com. And always remember that value is in the eye of the appraiser. We'll check y'all next week.
Yeah, like